Hi, this is Uma from Duroop Consultancies, and I'm going to present here MySQL Server Manager, which is an application that we have created in Access VBA, and you can download it free from our website. With this application, you are able to manage and control MySQL Server. You will also be able to create tables in an Access file and transfer the table definitions to MySQL Server. So you will create tables in MySQL Server based on the tables you have created in Access file. You also will be able to transfer data from an Access file to MySQL Server. Also, you will be able to transfer data from MySQL Server to Access files, and you will also be able to link directly tables in MySQL Server to Access files. You will also be able to create users, change users' passwords, and define users' permissions for connecting to MySQL Server. All of this is going to be very, very useful if you are using an Access database system that's been built using wizards and you want to connect it to MySQL Server. We will structure this video into two sections. In the first one, we will discuss some notes about installing MySQL in the server, and in the second section, we will discuss how to use our application for managing and controlling MySQL Server. We have already installed MySQL in the server, and by default the first username will be root, R-O-O-T. But also by default we are unable to connect to the server through the network, and we need to go to the server to do the necessary configurations in order to be able to connect to it through the network. And we are going to the server through remote desktop connection. Double click. Click. We are inside the server now, and I will start by clarifying the files we need to install in this server. These are the three files needed, and this one is MySQL Server. The version of this is 5.6, and the current version for MySQL Server is 8 point something, and this one 5.6 is about 5 years old, but I'm using it for a long time and it's very, very stable, especially for average and low specs computer. I'm using an average spec computer as a server for testing, and this MySQL server is very stable here. These two files are the interface. These are needed in order to link Access with MySQL server. If you are using Access 32-bit, then you need to install the interface 32-bit. If you are using Access 64-bit, then you need to use the interface 64-bit. The interface is called MySQL Connector ODBC. OBD stands for Object Database Connectivity. Now the number here is important, 5.2, because this is the number we are going to use in the connection string, MySQL connection string in Access, and I will explain this later. Now this file you need to install in the server, only in the server. These two files, it's preferable, as I said, this is for if you are using Access 32-bit, you need to install this file. If you are using Access 64-bit, you need to install this file, but it is preferable to install both files in the server and in every client computer that you want to connect to this server. So for example, these two files, I need to install them in my client computer in order to connect to the server. So this file is only for the server. These two files are for the server, need to be installed in the server, and also these two files need to be installed in every client computer in the network. So how can I know that MySQL server is working properly here? We can go to the control panel, administrative tools, click at services, just in the keyboard enter M. This is MySQL, click at it. It's automatic, the starting up type automatic, and it is running. Also, in the administrative tools, click at data sources, object database connectivity, click at add, and you will find two drivers, MySQL ANSI driver and MySQL Unicode driver 5.2, 5.2. Click at the Unicode driver. For the name, just type any. We are not going to save this data source. For TCP IP server, when we have just installed MySQL server, there will be two pointers to link to that server. Either it is 127, it's an IP address, 0.0, 0.0.1, or the equivalent of it, which is localhost. The first username by default is root, and the password, I do prefer when we put the first password at the installation process to use a simple password, so it is going to be easier for us for testing, and then later on we can change the password to more complex one. And the password I have used in the installation process is 1234. Click at test. Connection successful. It means that MySQL server is working properly here. Click OK. We don't want to save the connection source, so just close it. Close this one. As we have said before, we need to reconfigure MySQL server so that we are able to connect to it through the network. And the best way of doing this configuration is by using MySQL Manager, our application here in the server. This is the file, MySQL Manager access file, and we are going to open it with Microsoft Access Runtime 2007. As a side note, if you don't have Microsoft Office, you are still able to open and use Access files by downloading Access runtimes. You can download these runtimes free from Microsoft website. And we're using here Microsoft Access Runtime 2007. This is a security notice, which is a normal notice when you are running Access file that contains a VBA program in it. And I will show how to disable this security notice later on. Click open. This is the application, and it does follow a color code standard, the same as our previous applications. To check the color code standard, just click at General Options, Color Code. This is the shape of a button, which is an action box. If you click at it, there will be actions. So all of these are buttons. If you click at them, there will be action. The red box is also an action box. So these are action boxes. If you click at them, there will be actions. The white flat box is read only. So these are read only boxes. The depth in or the sunken box is read and write, and I will show an example of it in a minute. And the flat box with the red border is double click box, and I will show this in a minute. Click OK. We are using a wide screen here. If you are using a small laptop, then the form might look large, and we can reduce the size of the form by clicking at General Options, click at Zoom. This is a double click box, and we can reduce the size of the form by 20%, or we can increase it by 20%, double click, or we can return back to default, which is 1. Click Exit. Let us now connect to the server, MySQL server. We have two options here, connection string or connection details, and the connection details is much easier. Let's click at it. The first box to enter is MySQL Object Database Connectivity version, and as I said before, we are using 5.2. The version of Object Database Connectivity is 5.2. Just to double check that, this is the Object Database Connectivity that we are using, 5.2.6. We are using the first two numbers, so this will be 5.2. Server name or IP, as I said before, if we have just installed MySQL server, there will be only two pointers. Either it is an IP address, which is 127.0.0.1, or localhost. Let us choose the IP address 127.0.0.1. The port is default 3306, and the user is root, which is the default username for MySQL server when we have just installed it, and we can change the name later on. And the password we have put is 1234. We don't have any database yet, so this will keep it blank, and click OK. Now we are inside MySQL server, and we can check that by clicking, for example, at database. You will have test. This comes by default from MySQL server, and we can delete it. We can just click here options, and we click drop database, and we click yes. And let's check at user in the system. We have user in the database, but we don't have any database, so we don't have users in that database. And we have users in the system. If we click here, and in the system there are 3 records for one user, that is root. And this user has accessibility to the system through 3 hosts. Host in MySQL terminology means the client computer name or the client computer IP address. So the records here saying, for example, this one, it means that root is able to access the server through the IP address 127.0.0.1. Here, root is able to access the server through localhost, and here root is able to access the server through localhost and IP version 6. These are IP v4, and this is IP v6. Now, in order to be able to connect to MySQL server through the network, we need to create a new user with admin power. We do that through clicking at options here in front of user in systems. Now, users in SYS mean that user in the system. User in DB mean that user in the database. Now, we are looking at the user in the system. Click options here. You have add a new user in the system. New admin user. This is what we want. We want to add a new user with admin power. I'm going to select the username as Uma. And for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use a simple password, 1234, and I'm going to keep this one percentage. I'm going to keep it like that. It's the host or computer name, and percentage mean that I'm able to use any computer in the network. So this username with this password is able to connect to MySQL server through any computer in the network. Click OK. Username admin Uma, password 1234, host computer name is percentage sign. Continue, yes. And if you look at it, we have Uma at percentage sign. This means that Uma is able to connect to MySQL server through any computer in the network. And we are done here in the server. Click exit, quit, yes, and end the session in the server. And we are back to our client computer. Let's now open MySQL Manager here. Let's click at connection details. The object database connectivity is 5.2. Now, server name or IP, in this case, we are just linking to the computer that we put MySQL server in. And the computer name is test PC. Port is the same. We have Uma as a username. And the password is 1234. Click OK. And we are in MySQL server. And if we click here, we have the users. And I will delete the users, the root users. So I will go to drop user and drop user in all hosts. So I will click on that. Root to drop from MySQL in all hosts. Continue. Click yes. Option, tick all. So there is only Uma at the percentage sign, which means that Uma can access MySQL server from all computers. Now I'm going to exit and I'm going to add another admin user. And this time it will be root again. Let's put the same password, 1234. And percentage sign, click OK, yes. And we have two admin users. And this is good because in this application, MySQL Manager, I won't be able to change the details, let's say the password or the privileges for the current user. So for example, let's click at options, drop user at host, and it will say cannot change the grants or details for the current user. This has been put as a precaution, just as a fault proof. So if I really wanted to change the password for Uma, I need to log in as root, another admin user, and then change the password or the details for Uma. As I said, this has been put as a precaution. Now, we have three parts in this form. The first part is access to MySQL and MySQL to Access. So for example, I can create my tables in Access, I can put data in Access, and I can transfer them to MySQL. And I also can transfer data from MySQL to Access, and I can link the tables in MySQL to Access. And this is the most important thing, linking MySQL to Access. And we will speak about that. This is the connection string, and this is here the control panel. We spoke about the connection details, And by the way, this is the connection string, but without the password. The password here is hidden, but you can see the password here. And this is the connection string. You can enter the connection string directly here in this box rather than entering the details. But the details are much easier. This is the control panel, and it has multiple action boxes: database, table, field, user in the database, and user in the system. At the moment, there is no database in the system. Click Options, Add New Database, and let's call this database ABC. The name of the new database is ABC. Continue, yes. So we have one database in the system. Click at the table, Options for Table, add a new table, and let's call it Contacts. So we have one table called Contacts in the database ABC. Now, we can describe the table, and the table has only one field. In MySQL Server, in order to create a table, you need to have at least one field in it. That is one record, one container for a record. And we call that record to be deleted, so you can delete it later on. I can build the table. So for example, I can put name, contact name, the type, let's say character, size 50 characters, apply. I can put the ID, contact ID, type is integer, primary key yes, and I will put it as auto increment, and allow null. It means that do you allow this record to be null? It's either yes or no. Apply, and I can build the table the way I want it. Can just click it here. If we click at describe table, we have the to be deleted field, contact name, contact ID, and you have it here. It's auto increment. The key is primary and null is no. Let's go to the field. I need to delete this field, so options, drop field. Drop in MySQL terminology mean delete. Drop field, database ABC, is table contacts, a drop field to be deleted, continue. So this is yes. If we return back to the table, describe tables, we have contact name and we have contact ID. I can add users in the database. Now, we have users in the system, but the user in the system might not have authority to see the database. So all the users in the database are in the system, but not all the users in the system will be in the database. So if we have 10 database and 20 users, 2 users for each database, if we click at the user in the database, we'll find 2. But if we click at the user in the system, we'll find 20. Now, if we click at the user in database, we'll find 2. That is Omar and Root, because they are admin users. They have access to the database and they have access to the tables, and they can create tables and they can enter records, etc. However, let's have a user specifically for this database, that is ABC. Options, add a new user in this database. And I have 2 options, either to create a new user, read and write, or a new user, read only. Read and write has the power to enter data, to view data, to delete data, but the read and write user doesn't have the power to create database or to create tables. The power is being given to the admin only. The read-only user has the power to see the data, but they cannot alter or delete that data. We'll speak about these privileges later on. There is a lot of controls in this control panel. We can alter the field name, alter the field type, alter the attribute. We drop the field. In terms of users, we can show the grants, for example, show the grants for all the database. We have only 2 grants for all users in the database ABC. We have OMA, system admin, root system admin. We have a lot of controls. Now, not all the controls in MySQL Server is in this application. Let's make it clear here. There is a lot of controls in MySQL Server that's not included in MySQL Manager. But I think we have put sufficient controls suitable for day-to-day business. And we will speak about that at the 3rd section of this video. Let us delete now the contacts table, options, drop table. Yes. So if we click at options and click show tables, there is no tables in the ABC database. Now I'm going to discuss how to transfer from Access to MySQL and then from MySQL to Access. And I have a data source, which is just a random data. It's just tables with random data. It is just random words and random data, just for demonstration. So click at Access to MySQL. Get access file. And this is the data source. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to transfer first the definition of tables from Access to the database ABC. So I'll click Define Tables to MySQL. And I will select all these tables in the data source. Option, tick all. Okay. I have the last message. Current database ABC. You have selected the following tables in Access file to be defined in ABC in MySQL. Continue. Yes. Tables defined, which are the tables that we have selected. Click OK. We can see the tables here. These are the tables that we have transferred as a definition. There is no data in these tables yet. But as a definition, these are the tables we have transferred to MySQL. And we can check, for example, the fields there. Click describe field. And this is the company ID. It's a primary field and it's auto number. And I can change all the fields available here. For example, I can just check, for example, alter table type, or change the name of the field, alter field name. Clear. Let's transfer the data from the Access file, from the source data, to MySQL. And I have 2 options here. Carbon copy to MySQL or add data to MySQL. Carbon copy it will copy exactly the data from the access file to MySQL, including the auto number. This can happen if the tables in MySQL are completely empty, and therefore the auto number in the access file is going to be the same as the auto number in MySQL server. However, if the tables in MySQL server are not empty, then we need to go to add data to MySQL, and everything will be copied except the auto number, as the auto number in MySQL will have a new record and a new number. Now the tables in MySQL are empty, so we can choose carbon copy to MySQL. Tick all. OK. This is the last message. Current database ABC. You have selected the data in the following tables in Access to be carbon copied to ABC in MySQL. Continue. Yes. And this is the progress box, and it seems slow because, as I have mentioned, I'm using an average spec computer as a server for testing. Data copied to tables. Click OK. Now I have that data definition from Access to MySQL, and I have the data from Access file to MySQL. So actually I can start using MySQL as the storage to my database. We can also transfer data from MySQL server to Access file, or link MySQL server to Access file. Click at Access to MySQL and import link to Access. Let us discuss a bit about linking tables. There are two ways to connect a database, an Access database, to MySQL server. Either to connect directly, and that requires heavy VBA programming, or to connect using link tables. And linking tables to Access database is simple because there is Access wizards that do all the work, all the linking work. So we have two ways: either to link direct, and that require heavy VBA programming, and this is suitable for complex database systems, or to link using link tables, and that is really convenient, really preferable for simple database systems. In this form, we have three options. We can import tables, and this is actually not linking tables from MySQL server to Access file. It is actually just transferring data from MySQL server to an Access file. Then the second option is linking tables direct. This is not connecting direct. This is linking tables, but in a direct form, and I will explain this in a minute. And the third option is linking tables through object database connectivity data source name. And I'm going to shorten this expression, object database connectivity data source name. I will call it object database connectivity pointer. Okay. Now there is no expression in terminology. There is no terminology called object database connectivity pointer, but I'm using this name here in this video just to shorten the name. The official name is object database connectivity data source name. I'm going to call it here object database connectivity pointer. It is just an easy and short name. However, the first thing we need to do, if we just click at import tables, you will have a message. The target box is empty. Click at options, get target access file. So click at options. We need to have a target file which is empty. So we can create a blank access file. Click here. And file was created at this location, access data. So if we go to the file, this is the file. And it is empty. There's nothing there. Now get target access file. We are here. Let's start with the simple thing, that is transferring data from MySQL server to this access file. Click import tables. Choose the table that you want to transfer, or click options, tick all, click OK, click yes. And we have transferred the tables to this file. As I said, they are dummy words, random words, just for demonstration. Let's delete this file. Returning back to the link and import data, we already have deleted this file, so let's create it again. Options, create blank access file, and this is the file, and it is blank. There is nothing there in it. Now link tables direct is not the same as connect direct. Link tables direct will link the tables in MySQL server to the access file, but using the current username and password. The current username is Uma and the password is 1234, but this is the admin user and the admin password. And the system, the process of linking tables direct, will link the tables from MySQL server to access file using the admin username and password. And access does not encrypt the linking password. And therefore, if the file being given to other users, they might obtain the admin password. Therefore, this option is strictly given to the admin purposes, for example, for admin testing or for admin follow-up, but not to be given. The file that's come from link tables direct should not be given to different users. So let's click at it. Let's go for two tables, company and contact. Click OK. And it's mentioned here, this is not a secure link as access does not encrypt the link password. It is better to use the process link tables object database connectivity. Continue, yes. Done. And let's go to the file. And this is a linked table. It's a virtual table that is being linked to MySQL server. So if you change anything here, for example, if we change this one to whatever, let's put a name. Let's put a city, which is, let's say, Amman. Okay. This will be changed in the server directly. Let's close it. Now, link tables object database connectivity we will be using the object database source, and the passwords are encrypted in these sources. Now, what I mentioned here is that link tables object database connectivity MySQL access. The system will link tables through a data source name called MySQL access. How we can do that? Go to Control Panel, click at Administrative Tools, click at Object Data Sources, Object Database Connectivity. Now you have the Object Database Data Source Administrator. Click Add. Then you will find MySQL Object Database Connectivity Unicode driver. Click at it. You'll put the name here as MySQL Access. This is the data source name. TCP/IP is test PC. User, let's put it Umar for now. Password 1234, and database is ABC. Test, connection successful. Okay, okay. We return back to our form, and then let's have a new file. Let's delete this file. Let's have a new blank file, and let us. This is the blank file here. Let's open it. It is empty. And let's link tables, object database connectivity. And let's choose the same tables. The DNS for this object database connectivity link is MySQL access. Check Google or YouTube for the process of creating MySQL object database connectivity data source name. Continue, yes. And it is done. It is the same as before. It is the same as before. However, suppose that let's go and create two users for this database. One which is read and write. Let's call him Peter. Let's put the password the same as 1234. And he will have only access to table company. Yes. And Peter is here. And let's have another user, read only. Let's call him John. 1234. And he will have access to company and contact, but only read. Done. We can see the grants, the privileges for each user in the database, in ABC database, or in the whole system. Let's look at the users in the database. If we click at options, show grants, show all grants for DB. This means that show all grants for the current database, which is ABC. If you click here, grants for all users in the database ABC. We have John, read at ABC 2 tables. Omar is system admin. Peter is read and write ABC 1 table. And root is system admin. If you want to check for a specific user, let's go for Peter. Click options, show grants for user. And we have for Peter, we have read and write for the database ABC table T company. The same is for user in the system, show grants for the user which will be here, or show grants for all users in the system. Now, looking at the Access database. We have already created this Access tables. Just as a reminder, these tables using link database, that is using the object database connectivity pointer, which is called MySQL Access. Now, suppose this file, we send it to Peter. So Peter in his computer need to access the file, and therefore Peter need to create his own OBDC pointer. And he will do that by going to the control panel, administrative tools, data sources, object database connectivity. Now, suppose that he already have created this pointer, but instead of using the admin username and password, he will be using his own password. Peter does not know the password for the admin user, so he's going to use his own username and password. It is the same here, database ABC. Let's click test. Okay, close. Let's open now the file. Now, if you remember, Peter has the privilege of reading and writing to the company table, but he doesn't have the right to read the contact table. So if he click at the contact table, there will be an object database connectivity error. If he click at the company table, he can view the table, and he actually can alter and change record there. Let's change this one to London. And the system accepted that change. Now, although we have created this file by the admin username and password, but it was created through object database connectivity pointer. The password in that pointer is encrypted. Not only this, but using different users in that pointer will force the privilege for that user. Let's suppose that we send the same file to John. And in order for John to open and see the files, he needs to create his own object database pointer. So again, control panel, administrative tools, data source. Suppose John has created the pointer MySQL Access. It will be John. We already have put the password 1234, but let's put it again, 1234. Test. So the connection is successful. Click OK. I'm going to return to this page again, so I will just keep it. Let's open the file access data. Now, if you remember, John has the permission to read both tables, but he doesn't have any permission to write or alter any records there. So if he click at contacts, he will see the contact table. But if he tried, for example, to change anything here, let's say London, there will be an object database connectivity error. The same for the company. If he, for example, put this one as Paris, there will be an object database connectivity error. However, when the administrator give access files to users, he will not give them the tables only. There will be forms connected to the tables. And within these forms, the admin or the programmer need to put the control mechanism to check if the user is accessing the contact table or the company table. But what I'm saying is that you can have one access file and you can change, you can send them to the users, and the users will access the file according to their permissions. And that is the strength of using this process, link tables through the object database connectivity pointers. I need to speak here about the data source. You will find this data source in the administrative tools, and this is related to the 64-bit pointers. However, if you are using access 32-bit, you need to use this one, which is object database connectivity 32-bit. However, sometimes you will not find this file in the administrative tools and you need to create a shortcut. This one you can find it in Windows System 32 and the file name is object database connectivity AD32. So this needs to be clarified. Close. Let's close this one. Now, I think we have covered most of the tools available in this application, MySQL Manager. But as I said, not all tools and commands are available in this application. However, if there is a specific requirements that you need to put to MySQL server, which is not available within the tool set here in this application, then you can use the SQL Direct tool. Click General Options, SQL Direct. And this form is connected directly to MySQL server, and you can put the related commands, MySQL commands here, and then you can execute the SQL statement. So for example, let's type show databases. Execute. We'll find information schema, ABC, MySQL, and performance schema. Now, if you click here at the databases, you will only see ABC because we deliberately hidden these databases because these are private databases for MySQL server. But if you click at show databases, you will see all the databases available in MySQL server. So this tool, MySQL Direct, is almost like MySQL command line, except that you are able to access this command line from the network rather than the server. There are three things I would like to clarify before ending this video. The first one is about a possible MySQL bug, and you can see the details of this bug in this website, and the title is Deleted Rows in MS Access for Text Columns. The bug I'm going to speak about is similar to this bug, not exactly identical, but it is similar to this bug. Let's go to import link to access. Let's create a blank access file. This is the file. It's access data with a timestamp because there is already access data file in the desktop. Therefore, the system added a timestamp. Okay, let's get that file. Let's make link tables. Let's choose company table. Okay, yes, done. This is the file. Open it. Now you can change the record here easily. Let's say All right. But let us add a new record. Let's call it test. Let's word test. What you see here is deleted, 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 deleted. This is actually a harmless bug, because if you close the table, open it again, the data is still here. This bug is happening in some versions of MySQL Server, and it only happens when you open the table directly, and the data is not deleted, it is there, but in the table view you will see the row deleted. However, when you create a database system, you don't open tables directly, but you connect to tables through forms and subforms. And if you are connecting to tables through forms and subforms, you will not notice this bug. So this bug in MySQL Server is really harmless. Let's close this one. The second thing I would like to clarify here is about installing and reinstalling MySQL Server. If you, for example, uninstalled MySQL Server and reinstalled it again, MySQL will recognize previous installations, and that might be problematic. If you want to have a fresh, complete fresh MySQL reinstallation, then you need to delete MySQL folder in program data. You need to delete MySQL folder in program files, and you might probably need to delete MySQL records in the Windows registry. This was my experience when installing and reinstalling MySQL Server. The last thing I want to discuss here is about how to disable or enable the security notice, which is the notice that appear when you open Access files. Click at General Options, Security Note, and you have two options: Disable Security Note or Enable Security Note. And at the moment, the Security Note is disabled, so let's click at Enable Security Note. Yes. Now let's quit this application. Let's open it again. You will find that Microsoft Access Security Notice. Click Open. We can disable this security notice. Click General Options, Security Note, Disable Security Note. Yes. Let's quit this application. Let's open it again, and the security notice has been disabled. I hope this video was useful, and thank you for listening.